Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Money Hungry Mama podcast. I am so excited because I have two lovely mamas here today to talk about their new venture. Andrea and Kelly, take it away.
Thanks so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. My name is Andrea Cenero. I'm a licensed professional counselor, approved clinical supervisor, and a PMHC, which is a perinatal mental health, certified perinatal mental health specialist. My business partner, Kelly.
I'm Kelly Deichman. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so predominantly focusing on trauma, chronic health concerns. I have pretty extensive trauma training, a variety of different modalities that I use. When I was in graduate school, I did a special certificate program in addressing issues related to violence against women and children. So incorporate a lot of gender understanding components into the work into work with my clients, and really just we both are very passionate and firm in utilizing evidence-based practices, skill development, and supporting people in navigating life challenges, life stressors, things that come up along the way.
Wow, what a dynamic duo. I feel like you guys have like everything covered that any, mom or woman can go through. So, what made you start Haven for Healing? Was there like a moment or story that literally sparked this idea?
I think for both of us, when Andrea and I met, it was very clear that we were both very clinically and ethically aligned in what it looks like to provide treatment to individuals, to families, ways that different organizations run. We've both got really different experiences, but come together thematically in really similar ways. So our passion is there, our enthusiasm is there. And in mental health, it got to a certain point where, in addition to the therapy work that we were doing with our clients, really wanted to expand on incorporating groups, incorporating workshops, identifying needs in the community, and being creative in how we meet those needs. So, of course, individual therapy, family therapy elements, but also being a little bit creative, being more nuanced in how we can address different things that we're noticing and meeting those needs too. It's not lost on us that some people are concerned or maybe a little bit hesitant about starting the therapy process. So a workshop may be a way for somebody to get their feet wet and what this can look like, develop some skills, get a sense of what we can offer, develop that rapport, develop that comfort, so that may increase motivation and interest really in pursuing more clinical care.
And I think Kelly and I, we both have, like she said, we come from different but similar backgrounds. We both have over a decade of experience working in the mental health field. And we came from a group practice where not only were we responsible for seeing our own clients, but we were also supervising. And so we were getting our own experience of being in a different role than just treating our clients, really supervising and marketing and doing all these things that we felt like could be best going off on our own since we were so aligned in what we were doing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now for everybody that has not heard of Haven for Healing, can you tell us about some of the things that you guys offer?
Sure. So we are brand new. Doors were open July 15th. So we are
Love
really
it.
still getting the ball rolling. So as of right now, Andrea and I are both predominantly doing individual therapy. Now, depending on circumstances, it may be important to incorporate different family roles, different people in the treatment process. So, for example, anytime either of us are working with kids, working with teens, parents, guardians are always part of the equation. So, really incorporating different supports and really supporting the development of skills of understanding, not just with client, but with parents, with family, with guardian, as it makes sense. So for right now, we're really focused on the therapy piece, but we do have some different workshops, different events planned within, the end until the end of this year to really kind of instill ourselves in the community, let people know who we are, what we're doing. So for the therapy piece, we divide and conquer in different ways. On my end, focusing a lot on trauma, anxiety, chronic health concerns, chronic health management, in addition to navigating depression, navigating life challenges, relationship changes, different parenting pieces. So, sort of looking at a lot of different elements from that perspective.
Yes. And I think that, as Kelly said, we can both treat across the lifespan. We both have a different sort of like niche where we're seeing majority of our clients. So as clients are calling in and expressing interest in engaging in the therapeutic process, we're figuring out who would be the best fit based
Mhm.
on our experience, our training, the modalities we use, and of course, personalities too. But we're both similar in our approach in making sure that whatever family dynamics should be and is appropriate to be included with permission of the client is, especially for, those teens, adolescents, even young adults, making sure that we're respecting their confidentiality, but also it's so important to have some of the family unit as part of treatment.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something that is awesome, and it just seems like as you guys are talking, like, you're literally covering so many things. So my main question was going to be, do you focus on a specific group of people, or do you guys really just kind of go across the board?
Sure. The real answer is that it depends.
Yeah.
So there are definitely areas that I hone in on, especially at this point in my career. So for both of us, with our licensure, with our clinical backgrounds, that we can do a lot of different things. We're fortunate to be in the position where we can really hone in on certain specialty areas, but also cover some other more generalized issues, if you will. And I don't mean that in a way of pigeonholing anybody or really narrowing down or watering down what it is that they're going through, but there are considerations as to what that looks like. So, for example, right, if we're talking about a more generalized anxiety situation where someone is navigating life stressors, persistent worries, Andrea and I can both do that. If someone is navigating through a cancer related situation, that's more my wheelhouse. If somebody's navigating postpartum challenges, that's more Andrea's wheelhouse. So, the other piece too is that we are very, very compelled to coordinate and collaborate with each other. So, we don't necessarily give the play by plays of what happens in session, but if there's something that I'm wondering what Andrea's perspective is, or she's wondering what I would do, we work together to really ensure we're providing the most effective treatment possible. So then that way, we're doing our best work by our clients. Because when we're talking about therapy and really effective therapy, we want to ensure our clients trust that they are in the most capable hands. And if not, then our responsibility to those clients is to support them in connecting with someone who is more capable of providing them with whatever it is that they need. So there are times where that collaboration is important. We are very capable of doing many, many things. And it's also our responsibility to ensure we're doing right by those people and providing the most effective and appropriate treatment possible.
And part of that is also, we didn't mention, we're located in Shrewsbury. So we are building relationships with other clinicians, other providers that are in the area. You
Mhm.
know, some of our clients are on medication, and we are collaborating with outside providers, not only on the clients that we serve, but also knowing referrals and resources in the community. So, like Kelly said, if it's not something that is within our scope, we're not continuing to work with that client, we're handholding them and providing that warm handoff to somebody who is a better fit. We both know that we're great clinicians, we bring a lot of experience, but we're not the best fit for everyone. So if there is somebody who needs more of a specialized clinician or something we're not able to provide, we will be supporting them through that transition and collaborating with other providers
Hmm.
in that way.
Definitely. That we are very, very passionate and enthusiastic about that wraparound piece. So, if somebody's navigating something, it's like, hey, therapy can be really beneficial. And have you considered this possible doctor for for what's happening, right? Have you considered the possibility of psychotropic medication? Our responsibility then becomes following up with the client. And if the client wants, us supporting that person and accessing that care, understanding that care. So that collaboration back and forth with providers that many times therapy is not the first stop someone makes if they're navigating something challenging. It
Mhm.
can be their general practitioner. It may be someone at school. It may be a parent, a best friend. It may be somebody they do a workout class with. So, not necessarily that we're having contact with all those people, but
Yeah.
recognizing that we may not be the go to initially because there are still a lot of concerns about what it means to be involved in therapy. There are stereotypes about mental health considerations, not lost on us. So to support that person and really feeling comfortable, ensuring that we've got their backs, however it makes sense for us to do that.
Mhm.
Are we talking to your primary care doctor? Are we talking to the guidance counselor at school who you've got a relationship with? Who can we connect with to ensure you feel held, you feel seen, you feel supported?
Love it. I have like so many questions. My head is reeling because there's like questions I want to ask you guys personally, but I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off on those and I'm going to move ahead and focus on your clients first. And then I'm going to come back because I do have
Okay.
personal questions. So, the first thing I'm going to say is, how do you know what you're doing is working?
Yes. So I think, effective treatment is when we're coming in, we're assessing clients like where they are functioning upon entering into our care. And that's done so through our intake sessions, understanding what their current symptoms are, and also using evidence based scales to really get a sense of where they are falling with whatever they are struggling with at that time. So this way we can see from an evidence-based approach where there is that change and that progress. So it's really symptom management. They're seeing a decrease in their symptoms. They're responding to situations differently. For a lot of the work that I do, it's with moms, parents. So really looking at how are they responding to situations with their children. So giving their own narrative feedback, but also understanding their functioning, their daily functioning. Where are they? So a lot of it is based on information in which they share during our sessions, but also really looking at those scales to see, are they shifting in their symptoms? What else would you add to that?
I think that's where also checking in with someone about what is resonating with them. So what they are really connecting with during session, what they're utilizing outside of session, and also the transparency around what might be more difficult. So how do I know something's working? Is it registering with somebody? Or am I getting kind of glazed over looks in session? Like, I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
So that check-in piece with clients is so important because what I think is going to resonate may not actually be what lands with them.
Yeah.
So without that open conversation about what's working, what's not working, I can only go off of my perspective. And we both empower our clients to be really forward and honest with us about what's happening, what's not happening, what the barriers to change are. So I think normalizing the fact that not everything is going to be easy, really understanding what they're gravitating towards, why they're gravitating towards it, and also where some of the bigger concerns lie so that we can then support clients in understanding that this is a process and it's not a linear one. So while there's this idea that if I come to therapy every week, I'm going to continue to move forward
Mm.
in a certain way, there are ebbs and flows. And that's okay. That's expected. Because if somebody's been living their life for 40 plus years a certain way, realistically, 6 weeks of therapy is not going to result in a total and complete lifestyle change. That it's going to take time, it's going to take creativity. So, the utilization of evidence based practices like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, internal family systems, other strength-based modalities, grief therapy as well.
Mhm,
We've got a handle and a wide scope of what we can utilize with people. The real
mhm.
question becomes what's landing with somebody.
I always say that it's, I can teach and incorporate skill work. We both do. We're very direct in our approach and we want clients to, we want to validate their experience and really be that non-judgmental safe space to listen. At the same time, we want to give them a set of tools, right? That's what I'm saying all the time. What tools are we putting in your toolbox? And then as you go off and leave session, what are you gravitating towards in there? What's working? What's not working? We utilize homework a lot with our
Yeah.
clients.
Mm,
Two, that's the translation between what are we, what's landing in session, but as you leave this office and navigate the stressors and triggers outside of session, what tools are working,
mm,
what's not. So they're coming
Mhm.
back to session and reporting to us to answer the question about progress. This is what worked, this is what did not work.
yeah. Yeah. I guess like hearing you guys talking, you have cancer patients, you have grief, you have very hard topics. How do you guys handle it mentally to hear all of these sad things?
It's important for us to, I would say my first year of doing this work, that was a big challenge, was to
Yeah.
not carry that with you. I mean, we're human, right? We have our
Yeah.
own experience. We're both moms. We have our own experiences with pregnancy, postpartum,
Mhm.
parenting, whatever the topic is, it could potentially relate or ignite something within us personally or within our family,
Mhm.
etc. So in the world, we're experiencing the same things that our clients are. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that, seek our own. That's why I'm so glad to have Kelly on this journey with me because we can provide that support to each
Mhm.
other to say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm working with this client. This is what's coming up. So it's consultation, peer consultation. It's our own, at different times in my life, engaging in my own therapy
Mhm.
to work through what's coming up. I think those are so important and engaging in our own self care,
Mhm.
knowing boundaries, knowing that after really difficult sessions, how to be gentle on myself and know what I need, because after, 2:30 today, I'm going to pick up my own kids and then I have my own stressors, right? And I don't want to bring that work onto them.
Mhm.
whatever that may be, it's switching gears, engaging in that self-care, using my own skill work to understand that this work does have an impact.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like,
it does.
yes, I think
Mhm.
the boundary piece in particular, internal boundaries and also external boundaries, because
Mm,
when a client comes into session with me, I know what they're expecting, and it's my
yeah,
responsibility to provide them with that safety net, that safe person, that clean slate. So all of my stuff has to be outside of that room when they come into it. So really supporting myself, supporting them, and being able to hold that space. And if that's hard for me, seeking peer support, seeking supervision, seeking my own therapy if necessary, and also knowing and having the awareness of what activates me. So that's something that we both support younger clinicians in developing, that self awareness of what those trigger points are. So having an idea of where my vulnerabilities lie and really knowing that I probably need to seek the most support, seek the most training in those areas. I think a lot of times, especially in private practice world, people set themselves up to not have to deal with certain things when
right.
realistically that's not how it works. Because anybody who can come into your office could have anything happening with them.
Yep.
And while they show up presenting with the want to address X, Y, and Z, there may also be, A, B, and C to consider on the back burner that they don't necessarily want to get into yet until they have that trust and rapport with you. So the idea that people are never going to work with substance use, the idea that people are never going to work with people who have experienced sexual trauma, to have that in your brain probably results in a barrier between you and your client that's creating interference you may not be able to recognize, but there's probably something happening in that dynamic that's resulting in a barrier between you and that person. So as a result, it's my responsibility to ensure I can be open to whatever it is that they've got. And if I
Yeah.
can't, that's indicative of the work I need to do on myself.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's crazy to think about because, you think about going to therapist and you're sitting there and you're talking to somebody else and you're just like unveiling all your problems and you're like going through it. And then to hear you 2 talking, it was like a spark for me, like, "Oh my gosh, like, they are also human, and they have to bring this home," especially knowing that you guys are moms, so thank you for all that you're doing because it is a really hard position to be in, for sure.
It
I'm gonna
is.
make
Oh,
the
sure.
shift now because we're called the Money Hungry Mama, so I wanna talk about your business end a little bit. What has been the biggest challenge in building your business so far?
So I think coming from a group practice where I was at for over a decade, having the name in the community, having people know who we are, I think for right now, because as Kelly said, we opened doors July
Yeah,
15th.
incredible.
So it's not, oh my, it's 2 months today. Look at that. So it's getting the name out there within the community. We're located in a great place because we're able to collaborate with so many different businesses. We're, as I said earlier, we're in Shrewsbury on Patterson Ave. So in our complex, we have,
Wait, are you guys by the dance house?
yes,
I
so dance house, we have little
Yep.
rockers, abilities in
Hmm.
action, the bar method, leapfrog, critical mass, new
Yep.
mom school. I mean, and this community is really great on supporting each other, referring to each other. So I think, we're getting ourselves out there, but right now that's the biggest challenge is we are in an area where there are a lot of mental health professionals. So really just making sure that people know who we are, where we are, and reassociating us with a new place because we were both at a practice for a long time where that's where people could find us. So
yeah.
Plus, part of what our mission is to really stay authentic to ourselves and to not just open the door to anything
mm,
because we can. Because realistically, well, sure, we could go down that road. That's not providing the most effective care and the best care possible. And we are so aligned with being able to do that, that it's important that we don't necessarily say yes to everything if we're not the most appropriate people for it.
mm.
So it's being able to network, put ourselves out there while also staying true to who we are as people and as professionals.
Interesting. So now, is it just you 2?
For now.
For now, so
Love that.
we're partners, co-owners of this business. That's another piece you said. What was the biggest?
Yeah, the biggest hurdle.
We're learning the back end
Mhm.
of we did really great clinical work. We dipped our toe in the administrative side and networking. I was a supervisor. Kelly's been a supervisor training pre-licensed clinicians, but now we're understanding the back end of the business and
So
learning that
cool.
as well. So while we have a beautiful space, we have 4 offices, so we have so much potential and room to grow here. We need to get ourselves
Mhm.
established and understand before we're bringing on other different services, clinicians, et cetera, which is our goal, but
Mhm.
we also want to do it in a way that feels comfortable where we're not taking on too much at
100%.
once. So yeah.
I love it. Now, as far as I mean, I love that you guys are 2 months fresh. I know, like, some people are I love to hear about established. I love hearing, like, the thick of it because
Mhm.
that is most of the audience. The most of the audience is in the thick of it, and they wanna find their place and learn new
Or they're
things.
thinking about doing something, right? And
Exactly.
like you're on the fence and you're like, should I mean, that's a struggle that I had for a long time. Like, well, I know I can do it, but can I do it? My kids are little,
Yeah.
this, that, like, when's the right time to do something? So I
Mhm.
feel like that's a lot of your audience probably too
Mhm.
is I don't know what, like, do I leave my comfort zone? How do
Yep.
I do it? So providing that motivation to somebody else who's thinking about starting their own, whatever
Yeah.
it may be, right?
I love it. What is your best tip for that mom?
I think for us, it was really having the sounding board in each other.
Mm.
Here's the idea, here's the plan. Let's really walk through what the execution is. So
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate that Andrea and I think similarly, but then also different. She sees one part of the story, I see the other part of
Yeah.
the story. So the way our brains work, we come back together in the place that we need to be, but our approach and how we get there may be different. And it's nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of who I know may not see things exactly the same way, but the getting there will be the same. So to have that support, to have that foundation, and also too, really, I think for us, it started sort of with drive-bys of like, oh, what about this? Or what about that? And then when we really started to gain momentum and it really started to solidify that we picked up the pace in a way that made sense for both of our lives. We're both moms of two kids and we both got our established families. And going into summer, especially, it's like,
Mm.
what are we doing? But
Yeah.
at the same time, to Andrea's point, there's no great time.
Never.
So it was the right space, it was the right person, it was the right situation. It was I guess the best time possible for us and
Mhm.
figuring out how we make it work. So trust in each other, trust in ourselves, and then also knowing what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So figuring that out in the partnership, but also individually of like, that's not something we should take on right now. That's something that feels like we can do. So really bouncing those ideas off of each other and within each other. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Support is what
Hmm.
Kelly keeps coming. If you have the support, right, and you are able to share your ideas and really go through that plan, and it's not going to go according to the way you envision it or expect it always, but I think, having like loose plans,
Hmm.
the ideas, talking to people who maybe have more experience in that area to pick their brain. I'm sorry. Okay, I have a lot of friends, colleagues that did the transition and opened their own practice. I was constantly picking their brains. Tell me the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to be prepared for it all. So this way I know what I'm getting. I know. I have an idea of what I'm getting myself into. And then I have people who have a wealth of knowledge where I don't. I think
Yeah,
that
I
that's
think I think that's so true, like, how you're talking about support, right? Like, having that support, and that's why I love when I hear duos because it's like, "Oh, we bounce ideas off each other, we have each other," and it's so great, and, for everybody listening, we've talked about this multiple times, there is that free Money Hungry Mama Facebook group that I'm gonna add these 2 to as well, so, it's collaborating in other areas too because
yep.
every business is a business. When we talk about marketing, marketing is the same across the board. It's just like an even playing field for everybody. So what has been your best marketing that's worked for you guys for right now?
So for right now, we've really gone to like super old school. I know social media is such a great tool and all the Google Meta ads, et cetera. We have not done those yet. However, what we've been really focused on this summer and transition into fall is going to other businesses and really making that face to face relationship building because for us, and as we described earlier, a person doesn't necessarily start by just Googling a therapist. They may go to their primary care doctor, their OBGYN, their pediatrician, right? Or their school counselor or friend, and they're looking for support there maybe first before they're going out. So it's really been important to us to begin establishing those relationships obviously within our own community on Patterson Ave because we have all of those things right here, but also outside into the larger community of Shrewsbury and the surrounding towns. a lot of those relationships we already had because we were, like I said, at another practice for a long time. But those things to me are really important. Whenever I'm referring one of my clients to another provider, I like to refer to somebody I have that relationship
Totally.
with.
Yeah.
So this way I say, oh, I've met Brittany.
Mhm.
She's great at X, Y, and Z.
Right.
You'll love her. Like it's a warm handoff rather than me just Googling someone. I mean, right
Yeah.
before we hopped on, I had a client asking me for a specific type of provider. And it's helpful to have those relationships. So
Mhm.
that's really what we're focused on right now from a
Mhm.
marketing perspective is building those relationships, getting our name out there so people know, and then maybe moving into more of the up to date, social media types of, I mean, even doing things like this, right?
Mhm.
Because now putting ourselves out there where we're talking about what we're doing and who we are to your audience is super helpful.
For sure. And I think it's so funny because, we talk about marketing, we talk about all the different things, but whenever it's more of a service based in person, exactly what you're doing is always what I say is the best to do. Going to those vendor events. Like there's so many elementary schools in Shrewsbury that if you guys set up a table with a cute raffle, now all these parents know who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like really putting your face out in the community of connecting with doctors and being like, oh, we're new here. This is what we provide in, going to specialists in your area, especially I know, Kelly, unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, but for me, like my heart hurts even saying it, that you help people with cancer. Like it's unfortunate that that's even existing. So like you can go to specialists that diagnose that and be like, hey, like we're here, whatever. And I just think like what you're doing right now is so perfect for the in-service business because you're literally showing your face to your people. The
Right.
more you guys get out there, the better it's going to be. And I know we talk about this like social media 100%. If you are wide 100% social media, but even, what you're doing right now for 2 months in, fantastic. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I love it. I
We're
love it
figuring
because
it out.
yeah, no, it's definitely, that's why I love talking, especially in the beginning, because in a year from now, you can have all 4 offices filled. You can have all these things, and it could be like a comeback moment of, hey, like we figured this out.
Yeah.
Let's do a
This is
redo. And
what
it's
we
like,
learned.
yes, that's why I love
I
it.
will say you asked that question. Now we have a better answer for
Right.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's why I love this because it's, I love meeting people where they're at. And this audience is definitely where everybody's at. So I love that so much. Now, if a mom wants to support, how can they help support Haven for Healing?
If a mom wants support from us or to support the
To
business?
support you.
Awesome.
Oh, I think that the biggest way to support us is by telling people about us.
Mhm.
And if that is, our current clients, telling friends and family, providing referrals based on their personal experience, what we offer, unfortunately, there is a stigma around engaging in therapy. I would say it's changed,
Mhm.
It's
especially over
definitely
the
changed.
course of the decade I've been in this field. I think people are more inclined. It's almost like you share your hairdresser now. Like,
Right.
hey, I have a really great therapist. We're talking about it more and getting. So I think that that is the biggest way to support us is by telling other people about us.
Mhm.
So this way we can continue to grow our network, whether that is the person engaging in individual counseling with us or just providing that opportunity to share us as a resource for
Mhm.
other people in any other way that can be helpful to them and their community.
Totally. And I think with that also, if moms are noticing trends in their social circles, in
Yep.
their communities, and there are ways for us to support addressing and meeting those needs, that's another great way to support us. So, hey, I'm noticing a lot of moms are struggling with social anxiety. Would it be possible to do a workshop on that? Hey, I'm noticing a lot of moms are struggling with implementing boundaries with their teenagers. Could there
Yep.
be something about that? So, if there are trends that they're noticing, if there are different vulnerability areas, to start the conversation about that, you give us the heads up. We can then really run with it in a way that is probably going to meet the need that we're addressing, but also really supporting the community and understanding they've got options, they've got choices. They're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Psychoeducational piece is
yes,
huge because it
yes,
normalizes and teaches that in a way, and we're hitting a wider net of people that way who may be experiencing the same thing. And then from there, if people are like, this really resonates, I'm struggling, I need more support beyond just this information.
right.
Mhm.
Hey, engaging in that individual or family counseling
Mhm.
to understand how to individually support them. So it's sort of like that bigger area of support
Mhm.
and really psychoeducation. I think we're right next door to New Mom School. A way that we support moms is by going in, and we're both experts on different topics
Mm.
in really providing that support in a non psychotherapeutic way.
Mhm.
It's more psychoeducational. And that's a really great way to deliver the wealth of information we have that's not just individual
Mhm.
counseling.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, and I think, like, you're, like, talking and my mind is just, like, going, like, "Oh my gosh." Would you ever be open to doing, like, a Zoom workshop?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely, and we both have. So
Yep.
in different places that we've worked at and different things that we've done, we have offered different
We've done
virtual
in
workshops,
person.
in
Yep.
person, and that's where the flexibility of what makes sense for the community, for the demographic that we're really aiming towards, we can
Mhm.
figure out what makes the most sense. We do have some ideas of things coming up. There's a communication workshop in the works, there's a grief retreat in the works. We've got some ideas rolling, but we're always open to other suggestions, other considerations, especially if somebody really feels like we need to really zero in on something in particular.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I've gone into schools, I've trained districts on the suicide prevention. So not only parents, but also the staff,
Mhm.
because a lot of school staff, they don't have this clinical training.
Right.
The
I
counseling
don't.
department does, but teachers and administrators, nurses, et cetera, they're in the front line and they need that support. So we've done so many different things, but
Mhm.
I think the one thing that we want is to hear from the community on what those needs are, or if we're seeing different trends among clients. And
Right.
that's where Kelly and I collaborating. Hey, I've noticed that I would just say recently, we've noticed a huge uptick in co-parenting,
Yes.
like how to get parents on the same consistent level of support for their children. Huge. Like
Mhm.
we've noticed
Yeah.
that that's been a challenge. So really listening to not only what we think
Mhm.
is important, but what also people are struggling with.
And for somebody that's listening right now,
Mhm.
because in the beginning you said usually it's not them that internalizes and says, "Hey, I need therapy." What for that mom listening, tell her, "Okay, this would be a good thing for you if this." So she
Sure.
kinda understands maybe she doesn't need to go to the doctor to tell her. Maybe she could hear it right now to know that she actually needs support.
Sure. If you're feeling stuck and it's the same things every day, and whether it feels monotonous, whether it feels frustrating, whether it feels anxiety provoking, therapy can be an excellent platform for you. If the way that you're showing up in the world doesn't feel authentic,
Mm.
if how you're acting isn't really aligned with who you actually are, therapy can be an excellent platform for you.
If your daily functioning seems different, right? Like things seem more difficult for you, the way you're responding to your partner, to your children,
Mhm.
it doesn't feel great. You're getting stuck in, like Kelly said, those same like reactions and
Mhm.
patterns. Therapy can be a great place for you to explore that, learn skills to make changes with support.
Definitely. If you're wanting change, but don't necessarily know how to get there, you've got an idea of what change might mean, but you don't necessarily know the steps to take to move towards it. Therapy can definitely be another resource. If there's a role that you have in your life as parent, as partner, as friend, as patient, as teacher, as whatever, that you feel like you're spending more time in than others, and there isn't a balance in your life that feels good, that feels satisfying for you, that can be another thing to utilize therapy for, to really get a handle on how you're showing up in your world and whether or not there are certain prioritizations that may be more challenging for you, the person, creating sort of that imbalance, creating some of that emotional activation.
I think also, too, people wait for a decrease in their functioning. We don't have to wait for that.
Nope.
We don't have to wait for us to really be struggling to engage. I like to think of this as part of wellness, right?
Mhm.
You work out for physical health for your body. You see a doctor to follow up. You can have therapy. It doesn't have to be on a weekly basis, but it can be every other week, every 3 weeks,
Mhm.
every month. Just having that support, having that non-judgmental, a lot of people ask, what's different? I have really great supports. That's amazing. But there's supports and they bring their perspective.
Mhm.
Whereas this is just, totally a non-judgmental person who's not part of your day to day. They're removed, and that's a benefit for a reason. So I find some people wait until
Crisis,
crisis,
potentially.
and that is difficult because then what are we working on? We're working on stabilizing your functioning before we can do all the other things.
Right.
So you don't have to wait until daily functioning is impacted, until there is a crisis.
Mhm.
You can engage in therapy at any time in your life.
Definitely. And also consider what therapy can accomplish. So you may come in needing to talk about anxiety, needing to come about relationship concerns, needing to talk about parenting. And you may also find that once things stabilize in that arena, it opens you up to be able to address more. So a lot of what Andrea and I noticed that once we support the person in developing that foundation of healthy coping skills, they can tackle some deeper issues,
Mhm.
some other intimate concerns. And I don't necessarily mean intimate in the context of romantic relationships, but if there are emotional wounds, if there are relational wounds, if there are different things that can be attended to, because not everything feels so electric,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that can also be an option, that people may find that they can do far more in therapy than they ever thought. Why? Because they have a way of utilizing themselves totally differently than they ever knew that they could. Our responsibility is to support people in learning how to internally resource, use themselves as tools to create the change and support themselves as it's necessary for their lives.
Yeah, and I just like listening to that. It's so funny because it's true. You go to therapy when a crisis happens, but, maybe just having somebody there that's a constant support, that's not judgmental because, I mean, we're human. We tell everybody and ask for help from everyone, but maybe that's not the help we need because we really just needed to something that's internal that needed addressing instead of their actual opinions to change to think more like them. So I think that that was fantastic and really eye opening. So thank you guys for that. The final question for this duo: what does being a money hungry mama mean to you?
I think that it is knowing that you can do what you want to do and that you can work super hard to achieve whatever goal that you have, that it's not a lot of times, obviously as a mom, putting our kids maybe first before ourselves and knowing that two things can be true, right? That's what we work on with our clients on. You can feel two opposing emotions. You could want to show up as a really great mom and also still have a passion to do whatever that is. For us, it's working with our clients. It's being a resource in this community that really lights me up. And I think for myself, it's knowing that that's okay. You could do both. It
Definitely.
may take engaging in your own supports, tapping into your own resources to be able to do both. But I think that knowing it's okay. You don't have to put your own passions, interests, goals to the side just because you're a mom.
Totally. When I
100%.
work with people who are navigating grief, I talk a lot about grief plus, being able to experience grief symptoms plus other things, right? Assimilating that grief into their world. And I think about being a money hungry mama the same way. I'm a
Yeah.
mom plus. I'm a
Yep.
mom plus a social worker. I'm a mom plus, a
A
college
business
basketball
owner.
enthusiast, a business owner, all these different things being a mom is a huge component of my identity. There are also elements I will expose my kids to that I really feel strongly about them knowing that in addition to being their mom, which is easily the best part about my life, there are all these other elements that are really important and special too. That being a social worker is a huge component of
Yep.
who I am. And not just in terms of professionally, but also personally.
Yep.
How I show up in my marriage, how I show up in my friendships, how I show up in these different arenas. And also being able to demonstrate that I have goals and I can follow through on them.
And
Look
yeah.
what I can do. And to really role model what it is that we teach our kids so often, right? That if you want something, you can figure out steps towards it. Doesn't mean that there won't be challenges. Doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the way that you thought it would be. And let's not decide it's impossible just because it's difficult.
I will say this literally happened this morning at drop off. My son started kindergarten. He's 5. His speech therapist at school pulls me aside at drop off and was like, "Oh my God, your son told me on Friday that you opened your own practice. How cool. How amazing." So I didn't even realize he was paying attention and he was
Yeah.
aware. But not only is he aware, he was so proud that he shared that with her and was like, "Yeah, my mom's awesome." And that
Oh.
was like huge for me. So it's also being a money hungry mama is also setting a really important example for your
Hmm.
kids to show
Mhm.
them they can be whoever they want and really attack that their goals, their dreams, their passions as well. So I think that that's important. That's a lot of the work. I was going to say working with moms and parents, a lot of the work that we do is having them understand they can have that role, which is
Mhm.
super important, and not lose their whole identity. How
Yep.
do we get that piece back in a
Mhm.
way that feels good? It looks different now that you're a, but
Mhm.
it doesn't, that's not an identity that is completely lost.
Mhm.
As Kelly describes, it's mom plus, it's
Yeah.
dad plus,
Mhm.
right? So that is really what drew me into the perinatal world and getting certified in that component is because that is such a shift people see and they think I have to put all these other things aside because I'm now a parent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think it's supporting, them through that transition. And also one other thing that I want people to understand is when you become a parent, it reignites these wounds, as Kelly said, childhood things that maybe you've suppressed that
Mhm.
now as parents are coming up. And it's important to work through those to show up in the best way for yourself, your children, your partner, etc.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Guys, thank you so much for coming on today. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you two.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so much
having
for
us.
having us. It was such a pleasure.